Red Fern would have put them way over, and then they wouldn't have had to read anything else. So I want to give everybody what your updated brand new AR goals are for fourth quarter. This should last you till the end of the year. Zeke, you have 30 points to get. Maggie, 16. Josie, 24, of which you're already at 35% of. Sean, 16. Kendall, 17. DJ, 24. Kane, 24. Lily, 17. Grace is 17. Kaylee, 16. Caitlin, 16. Parker, 20. Macy, 14. Grayson, 22. Riley, 20. Sam, what? Grayson, you're 22, and you're at 14% so far.
Okay. What am I at?
Riley, you're at 15% so far. Sam, your points are 30. Jason has 20 points. Lucas, 16 points. Fiona, 20. Cam, 30. And Sophie, 16. And Cam, you're already at 20%. Okay. DJ, I didn't say you're already at 50% even when I raised your goal. So that's awesome. And Kane, you're already at 29% even though I raised it. So great job to you guys. If I didn't tell you what percent you're at, it's because you don't have any quizzes that counted yet. A couple of you took quizzes but did not score high enough for them to count. Now, reading reward. Do what, DJ? Yes, you guys can move your clip up. Reading rewards. Let's flip over and look at that.
But I don't have.
I'm still figuring out how to read these reports. It's not the most user friendly on my end. I'm just being able to click on them.
It's the number, the second number in all four of the columns.
What columns?
Like
I don't have columns.
you have to go to your reading room.
I don't have a reading room.
Here, hold on. To the left, do you see visit reading room?
Oh.
And then you click on Bab's class, and then it shows all of the people.
Okay.
Who's the killer whale?
All right. So Cam, you've already read for 2 hours today?
That was yesterday's. I forgot to log it in last
10
night.
minutes today. Okay. I was stressed out. I was like, did you just get up and just hit the books or what? If you did, that's awesome. Let's see here. Cam's at 907 minutes so far. So far that's the Josie's at 797.
Look at me.
All right.
What level am I?
What reading? Josie, you're killer whale, which is the same as Cam. You guys are both killer whales. In the 500s, we've got Grayson and Jason, both crocodiles.
I'm a fish.
You're Santa Claus. I got the crabs were the beginning. I've got fishes. Lily's a fish, and Maggie's a fish, and Kaylee's a fish, and Kaylin's a fish,
What about cuttlefish?
and Fiona's a fish. DJ's a cuttlefish. He looks a little bit crazy. He looks like he's got tentacles like an octopus or something.
I'm the only
Okay.
one that's like a 2D viewer. I'm the only one that's not on there.
All right.
I should have a butt.
Oh, Kane's a cuttlefish too. All right. Let's see who's on the next page. There we go. Riley's a cuttlefish. Anybody else on this page even? All right. Parker's a fish. Sam and Sean are fishes. All right.
Zeke is a crab.
Zeke's still a crab. He's not logging his minutes. Because if you guys were logging all your minutes of just what we've read for Red Fern, you'd probably be a fish at least, I would think.
Yeah, I'm reading this book a lot.
Yeah. Okay, so if I go to Riley's reading room, it's showing me things that she's read, that she's reviewed. So it shows So it shows she wrote a review on the book Moo. And you can see, so if you want to visit your friends, you can go to their reading room and it will show you anything that they have reviewed. Parker Pooh, he's reading this wildfire book and he's also got Where the Red Fern Grows on there. Okay. Oh, sorry, you guys can't see what I'm
You can look
doing.
at mine. I have war stories in there. Oh yeah, this is my.
All right, now you guys got it. But let's see who else has maybe put something in their reading room.
I put mine in my reading room.
Zeke, you did?
Library.
Zeke, I see that book on his desk right now. He's reading that War Stories book. He's shown me a couple passages from it. There we go. And he's got Red Fern in there. I'm gonna go see. I want to go see Cam's reading.
I wrote a review on Red Fern. Do I get candy now? Miss Fab, go to my reading circle.
Cam wrote a review on one of the Percy Jackson books, and she's read this Serafina and something. I can't read it. It's not pulling up. Something without a picture. Okay. Serafina and the Splintered Heart. All right.
Miss Pat,
Yeah.
I had to choose one of my books from downstairs, and it's good, but I don't think I have any else that I haven't read or I don't want to read, or that I want to read. And then I don't know how to get the books from the office anymore. Like Destiny, it's like request it, and then it doesn't let you, like, I don't know, we can't do the Destiny thing the same. It's like a completely different website.
Oh. Can you send Miss Blythe an email and ask her and just let her know what's wrong with the website?
Well, it's like Destiny for our school, but then it looks a lot different. Like it asks
Okay.
you which.
I actually don't have the website, so I'll get with Miss Blythe later today. I'm making myself a note right now, so that way you can check out some books or something.
Thank you. Because I really want
Also,
to
if you
read
have something in mind,
Brian's Return.
if you have anything in mind, let me know any titles too, because I've got a bunch of books in our classroom library too that I could sit out there. I mean, or I could take a picture of some of them later and show you what I've got, maybe. But if there's any specific titles, just let me know what they are, and I can either ask Miss Blythe about them or whatever. I've got maybe one or two of the Brian books other than Brian's Winter. I'll look for those for you. Okay. All right. So let's get started with Red Fern today. And we're going to do something, the thing that says before the story that we never ever do. We're actually going to do it today. You guys can go ahead and pull up and at least start typing on the before the story part. So, before the story, write down 5 facts that you think you know about raccoons. No, don't talk out loud. This is what you think you know about raccoons. Either that prior knowledge that you already knew, or things that you've learned about from the book so far. It doesn't have to be something that they've talked about in the book. If you know something about raccoons that it hasn't mentioned in the book, you can write that down. Anything you know, 5 facts about raccoons. We're going to be, and then we will talk more about that at the end after we read today's chapter.
A piece of paper.
What? Well, I'm going to give you the worksheet. Oh. And then you're going to write it on there. Okay? No. All right. So you guys, virtual, you can start working on that. I'm going to pass the paper out to them. Oh, man, I've got those too. I forgot to bring them. That would have been a good snack. What? The turkey? Yeah. No, I had to eat the wrapper.
Oh, I do.
No, but I
really good.
Landon, I bought something. You don't have your red pencil. Somebody's just back there on the cart and it's been there all day. All day yesterday too. All right, guys, get busy. No. So it's on the worksheet. Honey, write it on the worksheet. Guys, write your facts on the worksheet. I gave you a worksheet for a reason. Write your facts on your worksheet. Hang out.
We're going outside because it's not raining.
Yeah.
No, it will rain soon. Where are these Hershey Kisses from?
Do what?
Where are these Hershey Kisses from?
Because they're there. All right, guys, finish up your facts and.
I'm done. No. I'm done.
Yeah, raccoons are crazy. Get a spray in my face. Oh, maybe you want to miss it if it's always on your shirt. But finally, make me a
All right. 5 facts.
Can I share all mine?
Nobody else raises their hand.
Okay. Zeke, I would love to hear a fact about a raccoon. Please share.
I'll tell you all of them.
No,
Okay.
not fact.
They're smart.
They're smart.
They have stripes.
Stripes.
They climb trees.
Climb trees.
They climb trees.
That's also the same thing you just said. Climb trees.
I wrote it twice.
They climb trees twice.
They live in North America.
They live in North America. All right. Josie.
My first one is that they are known as trash pandas.
They are known as trash pandas. That was my first thought about raccoons, is how much they love trash. Lily.
Oh yeah, they have the cleanest mouths of any animal that eats.
Trash pandas. All right. Zeke added that they have the cleanest mouths
Of any animal that eats trash.
of any animal that eats trash. Well, I don't know that that's saying much. All right, Kendall.
They're tricksters.
They are tricksters. All right. We've learned that about them. Fiona.
They're nocturnal.
Nocturnal, which means they are out at night and rest during the day. DJ.
They're also called coons.
They're called coons. Kane.
They're ferocious.
Ferocious.
They're ferocious.
They are. Even if they will attack regular animals and pets. When I was little, we had a cat that would be indoor, outdoor, and he got mauled by a raccoon. He didn't die, but we had to take him to the vet, and he had to get a bunch of stitches and stuff because he got cut open. He was shredded. It was bad. There was the raccoon was trying to get into our outdoor trash can, and our cat just happened to get next to it, and then the cat. Obviously, our cat wasn't trying to eat the trash, but the raccoon thought it was trying to get the trash, so it just attacked the snot out of our cat. Sophie.
They like shiny things.
They like shiny things. Okay, a lot of people are talking. Stop. Listen to your friends. We all listen to you, so be respectful. They do like shiny things. We learned that towards the beginning of the book. Riley.
They're small, smart, and smelly.
Small, smart, smelly. Some of them can actually be really big.
The baby ones are so adorable.
Babies are adorable. All right.
And the old ones are really thick.
Okay. We're going to read our chapter, see if we learn anything else about a coon. Lily.
Is today going to be sad?
Is today going to be sad? I don't know.
Yeah, they're going to kill this raccoon.
I don't remember which chapter is the really bad chapter.
Miss Bad,
I don't think it's today.
Miss Bad, what if...
But we only have 17, 18, 19, 20. So, it's coming.
Miss Bad,
The sadness is coming. I can tell you that.
what if someone cheats?
Oh, whoa. Too many people all at once, and I have my hearing aids in, and I still don't know.
What if someone cheats and they kill a really thick coon and they cut its hide in half?
You can tell No, you have to have a full hide. Like a hide looks like 2 legs and 2 feet
but what
and a
if they
tail.
just cut a square out of each one?
I'm like just.
It's still.
I really wanted to say, call you a name. Like, don't be ridiculous. Okay, here we go. Chapter 7. Oh, Kaylee, did you listen to all of yesterday's? Get out there and listen to all of yesterday's. Otherwise, you're going to be confused today. Then you're going to have to catch up and listen to today's too. All right. Chapter 17. When we left off, let's remember they had just started the championship, the final hunt, and he'd already gotten one coon like right off the bat, right? Okay, here we go. Looking up at the sky, Papa said, "That doesn't look good up there. I think we are in for a storm." The sky had turned dark gray. Fast-moving clouds were rolling through the heavens. Grandpa said, "Looks like we're going to get some wind, too." Scared and thinking everyone might want to stop hunting because of a few clouds, I said, "If a storm is brewing, it's a good night to hunt. All game stirs just before a storm." 30 minutes later, Papa said, "Listen." We stood still. A low moaning sound could be heard in the tops of the tall sycamores. Grandpa said, "I was afraid of that. We're going to get some wind." We heard a rattling in the leaves and underbrush. It was beginning to sleet. The air turned cold and chilly. From far downriver, we heard the deep baying of a hound on a trail. It was old Dan. Seconds later, the rhythmic crying of little Ann could be heard. Swallowing the lump that had jumped up in my throat, I whooped as loud as I could. The ground was turning white with sleet. The storm had really set in. We hurried along. I said to Papa, "If this keeps up, that old coon won't run long. He'll head for his den." "If it gets much worse," Grandpa said, "I know some coon hunters that won't be running very long. They'll be too frozen stiff to run." The judge asked if there was any danger of getting lost. "I don't know," Papa said. "It's all strange country to me." My dogs' voices sounded far away. I knew they were much closer than they sounded, as they were downwind from us. Finding 3 large sycamores growing close together, we stopped on the leeward side. That means on the side that the wind can't get to them. Papa shouted above the wind, "I don't know if we can take much more of this." "It is bad," Grandpa replied, "and it looks like it's going to get worse." "You can't see over 15 feet now," the judge said. "Do you think we can find the buggy?" "Oh, I think we can find the buggy all right," Papa said. I could no longer hear the voices of my dogs. This had me worried. I didn't want to leave them out in the storm. "Can anyone hear the hounds?" Grandpa asked. "I can't," Papa said. The judge spoke up. "Fellas, I think we better go in." He said, "There's no telling where they are. They may have crossed the river." Scared and knowing I had to do something, I said, "They're closer than you think, probably treed by now. You can't hear them for the wind," I begged. "Let's go a little further." There was no reply, and no one made a move to leave the shelter of the trees. Taking a few steps, I said, "I'll take the lead. Just follow me." "Billy, we couldn't find them," Papa said. "You can't see or hear a thing. We'd better start back for camp." "I think so, too," the judge said. At this remark, I cried. I've been out in storms like this before, all by myself. I've never left my dogs in the woods, and I'm not going to now, even if I have to look for them myself. No one answered. "Please, just go a little further," I begged. "I just know we'll hear them." Still no one spoke or made a move to go on. Stepping over to my father, I buried my face in his old Mackinaw coat. Sobbing, I pleaded with him not to turn back. He patted my head. "Billy," he said, "a man could freeze to death in this storm, and besides, your dogs will give up and come in." "That's what has me worried," I cried. "They won't come in, Papa. They won't. Little Ann might, but not old Dan. He'd die before he'd leave a coon in a tree." Papa was undecided. Making up his mind, he stepped away from the tree and said to the others, "I'm going on with them. You fellas coming or going back?" He turned and followed me. Grandpa and the judge fell in behind him. By this time, the ground was covered in a thin white layer of sleet. We kept slipping and falling. I could hear Grandpa mumbling and grumbling. The wind-driven sleet stung our skin like thousands of prickling needles. Strong gusts of wind growled and moaned through the tops of the tall timber. Once, during a momentary lull of the storm, I thought I heard the baying of a hound. I told my father I thought I had heard old Dan. "From which direction?" he asked. "From that way," I said, pointing to our left. We started on. A few minutes later, Papa stopped. He shouted to my grandfather, "Did you hear anything?" "No," Grandpa shouted back. "I can't hear anything in this storm." "I thought I did, but I'm not sure," the judge said. "Where was it coming from?" Papa asked. "Over that way," the judge said, pointing to our right. "That's the way it sounded to me," Papa said. At that moment, all of us heard the deep voice of old Dan. "It sounds as if they're close," Grandpa said. Let's split up, said the judge. Maybe one of us can find them. No, Papa said. It'd be easy to get lost in this storm. I think they're more to the right of us, I said. I do too, said Papa. We trudged on, and old Dan bawled again. This sound of his voice seemed to be all around us. The way that wind is whipping the sound through this timber, the judge said, we'd be lucky if we ever found them. Papa shouted over the roar of the wind, we can't take much more of this. We'll freeze to death. The men were giving up. I felt the knot again as it crawled up in my throat. Salt water froze on my eyelashes. Kneeling down, I put my ear close to the icy ground in hopes I could hear my dogs, but I couldn't hear anything above the roar of the blizzard. Standing up, I peered this way and that. All I could see was a white wall of whirling sleet. I closed my eyes and said a silent prayer and hoped for a miracle. We heard a sharp crack and a loud crashing noise. A large limb torn from a tree by the strong wind fell to the ground. The sharp crack of the limb gave me the idea. Shouting to my father, I said, shoot the gun. If my dogs are close enough to hear it, maybe little Ann will come to us. Papa didn't hesitate. Pointing the gun high over his head, he pulled the trigger.
It's going to pull back down on his head. If you shoot it straight up, it falls back down.
I know. I'm sure he's not straight up. I'm sure there's going to be like a slight angle to it. Plus, it's the bird shot. It's not like an actual bullet coming down, so it's not going to come down with enough force to hurt anybody.
Well, no, like, if it shoots off high enough, it comes down faster than it went out.
Because of the gravity, it pulls it down.
I get that there's gravity, but there's also something called terminal velocity. Once something falls at a certain speed, it's not going to continue to, it doesn't continue to get faster. Each object has its own terminal velocity, which means it can only fall so fast. Now, a bowling ball is going to fall faster than a feather. They have different velocities, right? But a bullet shot with force of gunpowder, even if I went like from a plane and dropped that same bullet, it might eventually reach a top speed, but I still think that that top speed is going to be slower than what it would be coming straight out of a gun.
Yeah, because the speed coming straight out of the gun. That
Also, it's windy like crazy. It's a blizzard. It's not coming straight back down. Good point, Josie. Let's school Zeke. All right. I love you. All right, I give you a hard time because I know I can. I know you're a good sport about it. Okay. So we're shooting the gun. We waited. Just when I had given up all hope and had sunk to the lowest depth of despair, out of the white wall of driving sleep, my little dog came to me. I knelt down and gathered her in my arms. Taking one of the lead ropes from my pocket, I tied it to her collar. I said, find him, little girl. Please find old Dan. Right then, I didn't care about coons, gold cups, or anything. All I wanted was my dogs. I don't know how she did it. Straight into the face of the storm, she led us. Time after time, she would stop and turn her head this way and that. I knew she couldn't scent or see anything. Instinct alone was guiding her. Over a winding and twisting trail, we followed. Coming out of the bottoms, she led us into a thick canebrake. The tall stalks sheltered us from the storm. The roaring of the wind didn't seem as loud. Like ghostly figures, large trees loomed out of the almost solid mass. Falling and stumbling, we kept pushing on. Grandpa shouted, hold up a minute, I'm just about all in. We stopped. Do you think that hound knows what she's doing? The judge asked. Maybe we're just running around in circles. Looking at me, Papa said, I hope she does. Some of these canebrakes cover miles. If we get lost in here, we'll be in bad shape. I'm going to pause. Let's look up canebrake so you guys can get a picture of this in here. And it is one of your vocabulary words. You're scared? A thicket of a variety of grasses. So kind of like this. Like, so you can see that here's a horse and a man. You can see how tall this grass is here. So yeah, a canebrake is like really, really tall grasses. Here's another picture of a man.
Well, President, really quick.
Oh, I'm not projecting. I'm sorry. I thought I was still presenting. Okay, so yeah, here you can see the man. You can see how tall the cane trees are behind him. This was the first picture I showed them. So they're in the middle of all of this. So they're sheltered from the storm in this, but they can't see anything. It's dark, it's nighttime, it's a blizzard. And they're in all of this thick, tall grasses like that.
It's probably still cold in there.
And it's still pretty darn cold and windy. Here it says like the banks of a Kentucky river canebrake. Yeah, so
Probably what they're in.
yeah, this is what they're in right now. It almost reminds you of like a cornfield.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So they're afraid they're going to get lost in there because if you got thick enough into that, you can't, there's nothing to look, everything looks the same, right? How are you going to find your way
That I don't know.
back
if that's
out?
Canebrake. That looks like corn. Is it
Yeah.
is it canebrake straight lines or does it like?
No, this one is one where they've clearly like, it looks like maybe there's like a dirt road right there. This is probably somebody's farmland, and so they've just trimmed down the canebrake there. But no, in the wild, what they're in is probably something that looks like
Yeah.
this. They're smack dab in the middle of this.
Yeah, but on a farm, why would someone grow a canebrake just to make pictures?
Nobody, well, it probably was, they didn't grow it. It probably was already there, and they just trimmed this down so that they could plant something, and that's where they drive their tractor by it, and they don't have anything on this side of the farm yet, I'm guessing. Here's a guy,
Is that an
I couldn't even see him because he blended
right? There's
in.
just like his face because he blends in.
oh my god.
And there's one.
Wow, those look like trees.
Here's another guy in there. Like you can see how wild and crazy it is. So yeah, so okay, you guys have got a good image now of
I can't see him.
what they're in. Okay. Okay, so if we get lost in here, we'll be in bad shape. Grandpa said, I think we've gone too far. The last time I heard old Dan, he sounded quite close. That's because the wind carried the sound, I said. The judge spoke up. Fellas, no dog is worth the lives of 3 men. Now let's do the smart thing and get out of here while we can. Our clothes are wet. If we keep on wandering around in this jungle, we'll freeze to death. It doesn't look like this blizzard is ever going to let up. I could hear the roar of the blizzard back in the thick timber of the bottoms. 2 large limbs being rubbed together by the strong wind made a grinding, creaking sound. The tall, slender cane around us rattled and swayed. I could feel the silence closing in. I knew the judge's cold logic had had its effect on my father and grandfather. The men had given up. There was no hope left for me. Kneeling down, I put my arms around little Ann. I felt the warm heat from her moist tongue caressing my ear. Closing my eyes, I said, please, Dan, bawl one more time, just one more time. I waited for my plea to be answered. With its loud roaring, the north wind seemed to be laughing at us. All around, tall stalks of cane were weaving and dancing to the rattling rhythm of their knife-edged blades. My father tried to talk above the wind, but his words were lost in the storm. Just before another blast, clear as a foghorn on a stormy sea, old Dan's voice rang loud and clear. It seemed louder than the roar of the wind or the skeleton-like rustling of the tall, swaying cane. I jumped to my feet. My heart did a complete flip-flop. The knot in my throat felt as big as an apple. I tried to whoop, but it was no use. Little Ann bawled and tugged on the rope. There was no mistake in the direction. We knew that little Ann had been right all along. Straight as an arrow, she had led us to him. Old Dan was treed down in a deep gully. I slid off the bank and ran to him. His back was covered with a layer of frozen sleet. His frost-covered whiskers stood out straight as a porcupine quills. I worked the wedges of ice from between his little toes and scraped the sleet from his body with my hands. Little Ann came over and tried to wash his face. He didn't like it. Jerking loose from me, he ran over to the tree, reared up on it, and started bawling. Hearing shouting from the bank above me, I looked up. I could dimly see Papa and the judge through the driving sleet. At first, I thought they were shouting to me, but on peering closer, I could see they had their backs to me. Catching hold of some long stalks of cane that were hanging down from the steep bank, I pulled myself up. Papa shouted in my ear, "Something's happened to your grandfather." Turning to the judge, he said, "He was behind you. When was the last time you saw him?" "I don't know for sure," the judge said. "I guess it was back there when we heard the hound bawl." "Didn't you hear anything?" Papa asked. "Hear anything?" the judge exclaimed. "How could I hear anything in all that noise? I thought he was behind me all the time and didn't miss him until we got here." I couldn't hold back the tears. My grandfather was lost and wandering in that white jungle of cane. Screaming for him, I started back. Papa caught me. He shouted, "Don't do that." I tried to tear away from him, but his grip on my arm was firm. "Shoot the gun," the judge said. Papa shot time after time. It was useless. We got no answer. Little Ann came up out of the washout. She stood and stared at me. Turning, she disappeared quickly in the thick cane. Minutes later, we heard her. It was a long, mournful cry. The only times I'd ever heard my little dog bawl like that was when she was baying at the bright Ozark moon, or when someone played a French harp or a fiddle close to her ear. She didn't stop until we reached her. Grandpa lay as he had fallen, face down in the icy sleep.
He was dead.
His right foot was wedged in the fork of a broken box elder limb. When the ankle had twisted, the searing pain must have made him unconscious. Papa worked Grandpa's foot free and turned him over. I sat down and placed his head in my lap. While Papa and the judge massaged his arms and legs, I wiped the frozen sleep from his eyes and face. Burying my face in the iron gray hair, I cried and begged God not to let my grandfather die. I think he's gone, the judge said. I don't think so, Papa said. He took a bad fall when that limb tripped him, but he hasn't been lying here long enough to be frozen. I think he's just unconscious. Papa lifted him to a sitting position and told the judge to start slapping his face. Grandpa moaned and moved his head. He's coming around, Papa said. I asked Papa if we could get him back to the gully where old Dan was. I noticed there was very little wind there and we could build a fire. That's the very place, he said. We'll build a good fire and one of us can go for help. Papa and the judge made a seat by catching each other's wrists. They eased Grandpa between them. By the time we reached the washout, Grandpa was fully conscious again and was mumbling and grumbling. He couldn't see why they had to carry him like a baby. After easing him over the bank and down into the gully, we built a large fire. Papa took his knife and cut the boot from Grandpa's swollen foot. Grandpa grunted and groaned from the pain. I felt sorry for him, but there was nothing I could do but look on. Papa examined the foot. Shaking his head, he said, "Boy, that's a bad one. It's either broken or badly sprained. I'll go for some help." Grandpa said, "Now wait just a minute. I'm not going to let you go out in that blizzard by yourself. What if something happens to you? No one would know." "What time is it?" he asked. The judge looked at his watch. "It's almost 5 o'clock, he said. "It's not long till daylight," Grandpa said. "Then if you want to go, you can see where you're going. Now help me get propped up against this bank. It'll be all right. It doesn't hurt anymore. It's numb now." "He's right," the judge said. "Think you can stand it?" Pop asked. Grandpa roared like a bear. "Sure I can stand it. It's nothing but a sprained ankle. I'm not going to die. Build up that fire a little more."
So?
Sassy Grandpa. I think we need to put sassy on our list for Grandpa. While Papa and the judge made Grandpa comfortable, I carried wood for the fire. "There's no use standing around gawking at me," Grandpa said. "I'm all right. Get that coon out of the tree. That's what we came for, isn't it?" Up until then, the coon hunting had practically been forgotten. The tree was about 30 feet from our fire. We walked over and took a good look at it for the first time. My dogs, seeing we were finally going to pay some attention to them, started bawling and running around the tree. Papa said, "It's not much of a tree, just an old box elder snag. There's not a limb on it." "I can't see any coon," said the judge. "It must be hollow." Papa beat on its side with the axe. It gave forth a loud booming sound. He said, "It's hollow, all right." He stepped back a few steps, scrapped his feet on the slick ground for good footing, and said, "Stand back and hold those hounds. I'm going to cut it down. We need some wood for our fire anyway." Squatting down between my dogs, I held on to their collars. Papa notched the old snag so it would fall away from our fire. As the heavy axe chewed its way into the tree, it began to lean and crack. Papa stopped chopping. He said to the judge, "Come on and help me. I think we can push it over now." After much grunting and pushing, snapping and popping, it fell. I turned my dogs loose. On hitting the ground, the snag split and broke up. Goggle-eyed, I stood rooted in my tracks and watched 3 big coons roll out of the busted old trunk. One started up the washout, running between us and the fire. Old Dan caught him, and the fight was on. The second coon headed down the washout. Little Ann caught him. Hearing a loud yell from Grandpa, I looked that way. Old Dan and the coon were fighting close to his feet. He was yelling and beating at him with his hat. The judge and Papa ran to help. The third coon started climbing up the steep bank close to me. Just before reaching the top, his claws slipped in the icy mud. Tumbling end over end, down he came. I grabbed up a stick and threw it at him. Growling and showing his teeth, he started for me. I threw the fight to him then and there. Some 10 yards away, I looked back. He was climbing the bank. That time he made it and disappeared in the thick cane. Hearing the squall of pain from Little Ann, I turned. The coon was really working her over. He'd climbed up on her back and was tearing and slashing. She couldn't shake him off. Grabbing a club from the ground, I ran to help her. Before we had killed our coon, old Dan came tearing in. We stood and watched the fight. When the coon was dead, Papa picked it up and we walked back to the fire. "How many coons were in that old snag?" Papa asked. "I saw 3, I said. "The one that got away climbed out over there." I pointed in the direction the coon had taken. I never should have pointed. My dogs turned as one and started bawling and clawing their way up the steep bank. I shouted and scolded, but to no avail. They disappeared in the rattling cane. We stood still, listening to their voices. The sound died away in the roaring storm. Sitting down close to the fire, I buried my face in my arms and cried. I heard the judge say to my father, "This beats anything I have ever seen. Why, those dogs can read that boy's mind. He just pointed at the bank and away they went. I never saw anything like it. I can't understand some of the things they have done tonight. Hounds usually aren't that smart. If they were collies or some other breed of dog, it'd be different, but they're just red-bone hounds, hunting dogs." Papa said, "Yes, I know what you mean. I've seen them do things I couldn't understand. I've never heard of hounds that ever had any affection for anyone, but these dogs are different. Did you know they won't hunt with anyone but him, not even me?" Hearing my grandfather call my name, I went over and sat down by his side. Putting his arm around me, he said, "Now, I wouldn't worry about those dogs. They'll be all right. It's not long till daylight. Then you can go to them." I said, "Yes, but what if the coon crosses the rivers? My dogs will follow him, and if they get wet, they'll freeze to death." "We'll just have to wait and hope for the best," he said. "Now straighten up and quit that sniffling. Act like a coon hunter. You don't see me bawling, and this old foot is paining me something awful." I felt better after my talk with Grandpa. "Come on, let's skin these coons," Papa said. I got up to help him. After the skins were peeled from the carcasses, I had an idea. Holding one up close to the fire until it was warm, I took it over and wrapped it around Grandpa's foot. Chuckling, he said, "Boy, that feels good. He'd another skin the same way." I kept it up for the rest of the night. And we are stopping for the day. Dun, dun, dun. All right. So he's at how many coons total for the 3? And the dogs are after number 4. But it's 5 in the morning. The sun is probably about to come up. All right. You guys have questions. You have vocabulary. And then the enrichment. Look online. Make sure your facts were correct and see if you can find any other 2 more facts. So you're going to look and see if everything you wrote is correct, and then you're going to add 2 more new facts about coons after doing some online research. Okie dokie pokies? Okie dokie. That's what we got for today for reading.